Hello. My name is Bryn and I am an instructor at the YMCA. I teach spin and some yoga classes here at the Crown Point branch, and we're so excited to have you viewing this video on this gorgeous, what is it, April 2nd, and it's like 60-something degrees outside, so I hope you guys are all out there enjoying this, and you're going to come in and watch this before you go to bed. So, before we get started, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of explain the concept of restorative yoga for anybody that maybe has never taken a restorative yoga class or who has never taken a restorative yoga class from home. So if you were to take a restorative yoga class in a studio, there would be, like regular yoga blocks or bolsters and straps and all of that stuff kind of provided for you. So when you're going to be doing a restorative yoga class at home, you're going to want to have some of your own props. So my recommendations are just to have a couple of couch pillows, like the pillows that you throw pillows that you would throw on your couch handy. If you have two, fantastic. If you have more, even better. The thing with restorative yoga is the more props, the better. You never want to be uncomfortable in restorative yoga. You want it to be a refreshing, peaceful, tranquil experience. So if you are starting to feel overstretched or out of your comfort zone, the more props that you can support yourself with, the more comfortable you're going to be. So to have a couple of couch cushions handy, and then a couple of blankets. So these are actually yoga blankets that we have here, but any blankets, throw blankets that you have at in your living room or in your bedroom, whatever, grab a couple of those and bring them to the mat with you. These are going to serve for a couple of different purposes. At the very, very end, you can bundle up, because at the very end of the practice, when we stretch out in our final Shavasana or our final relaxation, I will encourage you to use one blanket under your knees for support and also to cover up with one blanket so that you're nice and warm as we go through our final relaxation pose. So when I say under your knees, you're going to take your blanket and just roll it up to make like an artificial bolster. If you have a bolster, fantastic, grab it. A bolster is just either a round pillow that you would put under your knees, or in yoga, they're usually, rectangular. So these are usually in every yoga studio across the world. So if you have those, use them. Otherwise, these work just as well. Just a round bolster, and you're going to use these for a couple of different things during our practice today. So the concepts of restorative yoga are pretty much different from pretty much any other class. They're very similar to yin minus the discomfort. Yin is amazing for opening spaces and stretching spaces and creating space from within. And after a yin class, you can be, like a little bit sore, but really stretched and kind of invigorated, and it usually gives you a lot of energy. Restorative yoga has some of the similar poses to a lesser degree of stretch. So restorative yoga is meant to open from the emotional body, to release emotions that have been stored within the body, and to encourage a very gentle release in the physical body. So anytime that we're going through these poses, if you start to feel any kind of discomfort or overstretched or not supported enough, being at home, I encourage you to build your support system. So if that means you need to add an extra blanket or an extra pillow to make the asana or pose more comfortable for you, then you should do that. You should take the opportunity to reach out and accept the support that is being offered to you through your props here today, to make this as comforting as possible for you. So with that being said, we're going to get started. So grab your pillows, grab your couch pillows. Even if you have like a big couch pillow, sometimes those can work well for some of the poses. It's entirely up to you. And then if you have your blankets, I'm going to encourage you at this point to just roll both of them. I would encourage you to have two blankets, a minimum of two blankets, unless you have a ton of pillows and bolsters and stuff that you would like to use instead. But if you have two blankets, it's going to make this much more comfortable for you. So with that being said, when we go into poses in restorative yoga, we generally hold those poses for anywhere from 3 to 6 minutes. So that's what I mean when I say you need to be as comfortable as possible, because you're going to be there for a minute or 3 or 6. So we want you to be as comfortable as possible. Also, one of the biggest things with restorative yoga is it is much more experiential. So a lot of times in yoga classes, myself, other instructors, when you're going through a pose, we talk, right? We talk about the breath, we talk about a bunch of it, because usually if you're in a pose that's causing some strain or discomfort in the body, we're going to ramble on a little bit and give you cues to direct your attention to different areas of the body, whether it's the breath body or the physical body. But we want you to kind of be distracted from any discomfort in your body. With restorative yoga, once we get into the pose, I will encourage you to notice your breath and draw the breath deep into the belly. And that's about it. After that, there's a lot more silence in this class than there is in your regular yoga classes. So if you notice that I'm not talking, if you notice that there's a silence for a long period of time, that's why. This is meant to be experiential. So I think I covered everything, right? Poses are going to be longer. There's going to be more silence. We want you to be as bolstered as possible. This is a great practice to do at the end of your day because it's great for relaxation, getting rid of anxiety, letting go of the day. There's a whole lot going on in the world right now, a lot of uncertainty. This is a great way to kind of tune it out, let it all go. Thank you for being here tonight. So with that being said, let's get started. Also, at the very end of class, you'll notice that my room here is going to get a little bit darker as we go into that final relaxation. If I am worth anything as a yoga instructor, you will not have to look at the screen a whole lot for this practice because there's only a handful of poses that we will be doing because we hold them for so long. So when my screen goes a little bit darker, that is your cue to let your eyes close. From that point on, you do not have to open your eyes. You do not have to look at the screen again. That's the point where I want you to kind of fall into that relaxation, let it all go, let yourself settle in. So don't be alarmed. If it gets darker in here, you'll still be able to see me, but you will definitely be able to hear my voice. So we are going to start our practice today. Normally you start in regular Shavasana. We are going to start our practice today in what's called supported Shavasana. So we're going to take one of those blankets that we had rolled up. This is couch cushion restorative, right? So we're going to make do with what we've got. And we're going to place it just below our knees, just so that our knees have a little bit of support here. And we are going to use our couch cushions as a support. We want the couch cushions to kind of match up just between our shoulder blades. So as we start to lower ourselves back onto the couch cushions, we want our arms to splay wide, palms facing towards the ceiling, letting your head kind of fall back. You should feel an opening in the throat. Your palms will rotate towards the ceiling, releasing any tension from the toes and the ankles and the knees. The reason for the pillows is to create a heart opener. So this creates a chest expansion across through the rib cage, across the heart center. It also creates an opening in the throat. And I'm going to offer you some encouragement to release your tongue away from the roof of your mouth and to separate your teeth. So a lot of times we hold so much tension in our jaw. So I'm going to encourage you to separate your teeth. Let your teeth fall away from one another. And as we begin to let go of the stress and kind of mentally prepare for this restorative practice today, we're going to direct our awareness to the breath. Noticing that we usually carry the breath right up here in the chest. And on your next inhale, I'm going to encourage you to draw the breath deeper. So pulling the breath all the way down into the lower belly, filling the lower belly with air, feeling the expansion between the ribs and the hips, feeling the belly rise with every inhale and fall with every exhale. Allowing your eyes to close if that's comfortable for you. And just saying to yourself, breathing in and breathing out, to keep your mind focused on just the breath. Taking one more breath like that, drawing it deep into the belly, and then letting your breathing just return to its normal pattern. Noticing if now your breath is longer or smoother. Noticing if your mind is quieter. And now if you have that blanket rolled up under your knees, I'm going to have you kind of reach down and we're just going to pull this blanket off to the left side. We're going to start by placing it on the left side because as we return to our original pose, palms facing up, we're going to draw the left foot up so that the left foot is planted on the mat just inside the right knee. And on your next exhale, you're going to allow that left knee to travel towards the floor, opening from the hip. Now, if you're noticing as you're lowering that knee towards the floor, the right hip wants to roll up and come up off the mat, or it starts to create some discomfort in the low back, this is where I encourage you to draw that blanket in and create a support for that knee so that you are in reclined tree position. Your arms can remain out to the side if that's where you want your tree limbs to stay, or you can even send them up overhead to create more space throughout the ribs for that breath. Creating the amount of support that you need for that left leg. So if the blanket is not quite enough, you can even add a second blanket if you need more support for that leg. But once you settle in, allowing your breath to once again return to that deep state, entering the belly, and exiting from the belly, feeling a hollowness where that breath once was. Taking one more breath here. And on your next inhale, you can bring your arms down, shake out those tree limbs, taking your left hand under your left knee, supporting that left knee all the way up, planting that foot firmly on the mat, and then sending that left leg out long. Taking just a minute here to stretch it out, releasing any tension that might have formed in the arms, the legs, the hips. And then taking that blanket, that rolled up support, and just switching it over to the right side. So now, as you guessed, we're going to return to our original pose, bringing that right foot up, planting it just inside the left knee. And on your next exhale, letting that right knee fall out to find comfort either on that rolled up blanket, or if you don't need it, if your hips stay firmly planted on the mat and you want to relax that right knee down to the ground, then that's where you go with it. Deciding where you want your tree limbs to be, so out to the side, up overhead, whatever feels good to you. And then consciously directing your breath into the belly. Taking one more breath here. And on your next inhale, bringing that right leg up, sending that right leg out long, shaking out any tension that you have in the arms, just beginning to wake up the legs just a little bit. And when you feel ready, there's no rush, we're just going to bring that right arm across the midline of the body and kind of roll off of our foundation of the pillows and just taking a breath here. So just laying here, kind of in the fetal position, surrendering the weight of your body over to the floor and just taking a breath here. And when you're ready, you're going to place both hands on the floor of the mat and just press yourself up to seated. And we're going to come into what's called easy pose. So we're going to want to have our blankets and our pillows handy. But for now, we're going to bring the right foot in close to the root, and we're going to have the left foot in close to the root and the right foot just out in front. So instead of stacking your ankles one on top of the other, we're going to have one on the floor, the right foot right out in front of the left foot. So sitting up nice and tall, we're just going to roll those shoulders back and tuck your chin to your chest just a little bit. So we're going to just imagine being like a string, pulling you up through the crown of your head, creating a perfectly straight spine, which would encourage you to just drop your chin just slightly towards your chest. Rolling the shoulders back, feeling the shoulder blades kind of slide down the back body, creating that space across the chest, opening through the ribs. And now practice drawing that breath deep into the belly from a seated position. We're all so used to sucking it in, right? Having the tight core and the tight abs. So just allowing yourself to experiment with letting it go. Feeling the belly expand, feeling the belly collapse, feeling the ribs lift away from the hips on the inhale and sink back down on the exhale. Good. And now for this next asana, for this next restorative pose, we're going to take our couch pillows or bed pillows or whatever we've got, and we're going to place them just out in front of us. So as we begin to go into the easy pose forward fold, you are going to decide how much or how little support you need in this pose. So taking your forearms and laying one on top of the other, you're going to begin to lower yourself down, keeping that right foot directly out in front of the left. So keeping it in the exact same pattern as we started in, and we're just going to lower ourselves down on to the pillows, dropping your head to your forehead. Now, if that feels, I don't know exactly what level your pillow system, your foundation is at right now, but if that feels like too much of a stretch throughout the side body or through the hip, or it causes compression or anything, that's the beauty of restorative, right? We never want you to be uncomfortable. So just by taking your blankets and folding them into a new support system, so now instead of being a bolster, it's going to act as another pillow, and seeing if that level, lifting that level up to meet you. So we're just kind of bring the ground up to meet our foreheads to create a gentle, a comfortable stretch. We don't want this to be painful. And again, if that's still not enough, feel free to use yet another blanket. You are in the comfort of your own home. You use as many blankets or as many pillows as you need to make this pose comfortable for you. The desired effect is a very relaxed opening through the right hip and possibly even into the right low back. Never painful, just a nice gentle stretch. So dropping down, lowering your forehead to your forearms, and drawing that breath into your belly. On your next inhale, you're gonna lift your head slowly, using your hands to press into your foundation, coming back up to a seated position. Just letting your blood pressure and everything kind of return to normal for a minute. Drawing in a deep inhale, dropping your jaw for an open mouth exhale. Giving yourself permission to just let it go. So you can leave your foundation exactly where it's at out in front of you. I just want to show you that all we're going to do for this next one is we're just going to switch our foot position. So we're going to draw our right foot in closer to the root now, sending the left foot just out in front. So one ankle is right in front of the other ankle instead of them being stacked. We're going to redistribute our weight, right? So sit up nice and tall. Let's go back to that rolling the shoulders, feeling the shoulder blades slide down the back body. Drawing space across the chest, opening through that heart center. Tucking the chin just slightly, remembering that string that pulls up through the crown of our head. And allowing ourselves to fill that space with breath, not making any effort to hold things in tight. Good. And then using that same foundation. And yoga system always reminds us that balance is kind of a myth, right? So on one side, you may have only been able to go this low, but on this side, you may be able to go lower, or you may need more support. Balance is a myth. Yoga system constantly reminds us that everything is always uneven. So what felt like a comfortable stretch on one side may be too much or too little for the other side. So creating the support that you need in each individual pose is so important. So stacking one forearm on top of the other and beginning to slowly lower yourself down to allow your forehead to meet your forearm. And then deciding, is this enough support? Is this foundation that I built for myself enough? Is it too much? Do you think I could use a little bit more of a stretch? You decide where you need to be on this and then get as comfortable as possible. We've got a few minutes here. So lowering your forehead to your forearm and drawing that breath deep into the belly, even though your belly is a little bit compressed here, breathing into that compression. On your next inhale, lifting your head slowly, letting that blood flow, kind of return to normal, using your hands to press up, back to seated, and then just kind of taking your whole foundation and setting it off to the side for just a minute, keeping it within reach in case you need any of your props in the near future, but just kind of placing it off to the side so we have just a little bit of room for just a little bit of movement. So just beginning to kind of sway back and forth, just creating a very, very gentle side sway in the spine, through the cervical, which is up here in the neck, and through the thoracic, which is that midsection that always gets kind of stuck, right? So where our ribs are, where our shoulder blades are, just creating almost like a gentle wave-like pattern that goes from the lumbar spine, which is very, very low, creating a wave all the way up through the top of the head, just to work out any kinks that may have formed unintentionally, but that's life, right? Drawing in a very deep inhale and dropping your jaw for an open mouth exhale. Signifying that release, allowing yourself to just let it all go, right? So we're going to take our left hand and just place it on the mat with our fingertips pointing outward. So palm is going to be flat, fingertips splayed wide, pointing outward. And our next inhale, we're going to draw the right arm up overhead. Exhale, releasing into that crescent-shaped spine to the left. So allowing the left ear to travel down towards the left shoulder, allowing the right arm to come down towards the right ear. Fingertips are kind of active, creating a stretch from the fingertips all the way into the elbow, all the way into the shoulder, all the way through the ribs, all the way down into the hips. Breathing into that side body space. So imagining that you can send all of your breath over into that space between your ribs and your hips. And on your next inhale, lifting straight up, exhale, bringing that right arm down. We're going to switch arms. So now right palm faces out, fingertips, facing out, palm on the mat. Inhale, left arm up overhead, palm facing inward. Exhale, crescent-shaped spine, this time to the right. Fingertips are active, creating that space. So feeling an active pulling, an active opening, especially here in the ribs, pulling the ribs up and away from the hips, sending your breath into that side body. Inhale, pressing up. Exhale, bringing that arm down to the side. Good. Taking your hands to the mat any way that you need to do it, pressing yourself up, and we're just going to come to all fours, so kind of a tabletop position. So your feet are going to be flat on the mat, and your hips are going to be roughly shoulders distance apart. So you're going to be long ways on your mat. I'm going to be this way so that you can see exactly what I'm doing just a little bit better. Actually, I'm going to turn sideways too, because I feel like that would give you a better illustration. I'm also going to tuck this in so you can actually see what I'm doing. So on your inhale, you're going to drop your belly and lift your tailbone up towards the ceiling. You're going to lift your gaze, opening through the throat, opening through the chest on the inhale. Dropping your belly towards the mat, filling that belly with air. And on the exhale, we're going to reverse it into cat pose, dropping your chin to your chest, tucking that tailbone under, pulling the navel in towards the spine and pressing up through the shoulders. So you can feel a separation in your shoulder blades. You can actually feel them kind of being engaged and pulling apart. Inhale, dropping that belly again, lifting the gaze to the ceiling. Exhale, reversing that to cat. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. One more time. Inhale, lifting that gaze to the ceiling. Exhale, reversing that arch. And now coming back to like a neutral position. So your hands are going to be just under your shoulders, fingers splayed wide, hips neutral, and knees just under the hips. We're going to take our left hand And we're gonna slide it palm facing up between the knee and the right arm. We're gonna follow that slide so we come down to rest on our left shoulder, using our right hand kind of as a kickstand for support, opening through that shoulder, feeling that stretch all the way through the left shoulder and down the left side body. Taking just a few breaths here. On your next inhale, drawing that left arm back and placing it just under your left shoulder, returning to a neutral spine. And on your next exhale, reversing it. So now your right hand is going to slide in between that space between your left hand and your left knee, coming down to rest on that right shoulder. On your next inhale, lifting back up, returning to a tabletop position. And this is where we're going to take our blanket in its folded position, and we're just going to place it kind of over our knees, or over the back of our legs, like our shin area. And we're going to take our other blanket and roll it just slightly and bringing it this way, so that as we're sitting back, we're using this blanket's coming from our knees out this way, and we're going to come into a supported child's pose. So we're going to lower our hips back, keeping our knees wide, and we're going to lower our left cheek to the blanket, and we can either send our arms back if that's comfortable for you, or you can keep them up above so that your palms are flat on the mat, left cheek resting on the blanket. So your cheek and your chest should both be supported. Your hips should be supported with a pillow or a blanket just behind them, creating quite a bit of compression between the belly and the knees, or the belly and the blanket. And drawing that breath deep into that compression. Allowing the eyes to close. On your next inhale, you're going to slide your hands down just enough so that you can pick your cheek up and turn the opposite way. So now your right cheek will be resting on the blanket, and then deciding where you want your arms for the second half. If you want to try tucking them down next to you, or if you want to send them up and overhead. On your next inhale, sliding your hands down, pressing back up to tabletop, and then taking the folded blanket and just placing it off to the side for now, and taking the blanket that you had rolled up under your belly. Whoops. We're going to re-roll mine because mine came apart. And we're just going to take it and kind of slide it under our ankles. And then we're going to use our hands to help us walk ourselves out so we are flat on our mat. And we're going to return to that posture where we had one forearm folded over the other forearm, resting our forehead on our forearms for supported crocodile. Now you'll notice that your belly is pressed up into the mat, again, creating compression. We really want you to continue drawing that breath deep into the belly. Every time you draw a breath into the belly with that compression, it's like detoxing, right? So it's kind of squeezing all the toxins and all the stuff out of your internal organs. So giving that little internal massage with every inhale. So dropping your forehead to the mat or to your forearms and drawing that breath into the belly. Checking in with your shoulders and making sure that they're not all hiked up like mine just were. So releasing your shoulders, holding no tension there. On your next inhale, I'm going to have you just roll over onto your back. We're gonna either push this blanket out of the way with your feet or slide it off to the side where you can reach it in just a minute. We're just gonna roll flat onto our back, settling in with the weight of the body. And on your next inhale, sending the arms up overhead, creating a stretch throughout the entire body. So toes pointing one way, fingertips reaching the other on the inhale, creating tension through the entire body. And on the exhale, relaxing completely. Once again, inhale, reaching in both directions. Exhale, relaxing completely. One more time. This is our good morning stretch. Inhale, creating so much tension, like a piece of taffy being pulled in two different directions. Exhale, relaxing completely. And as we transition into our final Shavasana, this is where I would encourage you to kind of bundle up. So putting on a sweatshirt or using your blanket to kind of cover up. You're gonna use that rolled up blanket under your knees for support to take pressure off your low back again. And you're gonna use the other blanket to either cover up with, or you can use it as a neck support, or whatever you need to do to get as comfortable as possible as we settle in for the spinal relaxation. So again, my room is going to get just a little bit darker. I'm going to give everybody just a minute or so to settle in and get comfortable. So as you use that blanket or bolster under the knees for support, and using a blanket to cover up, just to be as warm and cozy as possible as we finish our restorative practice tonight. Using socks if you want to, whatever you really need to do to be as comfortable so that you can begin to really, really let it all go as we finish our practice. I want you to take your awareness to your feet, allowing your toes to fall away from each other, releasing any tension from the ankles and from the knees and from the hips. Rolling the shoulders back and down, rotating the palms outwards so that your palms face up, which will inevitably open the chest and bring the shoulder blades just a little bit closer together. Tucking your chin just slightly towards your chest, just a little bit, to create that neutrality in the spine. So even though we're laying on our backs, we still want to keep a long, straight spine, creating an even flow of energy up and down the spinal column. Relaxing your forehead, letting your eyes close. Knowing you no longer need to look at the screen to see what you're supposed to be doing. You can even use an eye pillow to help encourage relaxation. Separating your teeth. Releasing the tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Drawing your awareness to your breath. Slowly drawing that breath into the belly. Slowly exhaling. Feeling the cool air on the inhale at the tip of the nose and across the back of the throat. Feeling the warmth of the exhale as it comes up like a whisper across the back of the throat and out the nose. Saying to yourself, breathing in, breathing out, allowing yourself to take this mental break, this break from all the chitta, right? From all the chatter that goes on inside our own brain, our own mind, the worry, the anxiety, the planning, the unknown. Giving ourselves just this one more minute to think of nothing but our breath. The breath is a constant reminder that we are never, ever alone in this world. The breath is the first thing to greet us as we come into this world, and it is the last thing to leave us as we transition on to the next. Breathing in. And breathing out. On your next inhale, I want you to follow that breath. Mentally taking a journey with that breath to the area of the body that is still holding tension. Are you holding tension in your shoulders? Are you pulling them up towards your ears, creating tension across the top of the shoulders and through the mid-back? And if so, allow that breath to encourage that part of the body to let go. Are you holding tension in the belly? Are you sucking it in? Are you engaging those abs and restricting that breath? And if so, allow that breath to break down those barriers and fill that abdominal cavity, allowing it to move freely. Are you holding tension in your jaw? Are you clenching your teeth or holding a rigid lower jaw? If so, allow that breath to unhinge the stress and tension from the jaw. Allow the bottom jaw to hang heavy. Follow that breath to the area that feels tense or dense now. Breathing in, breathing out. And now collectively, everyone drawing in a deep inhale, feeling the belly expand and then dropping the jaw for an open mouth exhale. Feeling yourself feel heavier into the floor and lighter, all at the same time. And then letting the breath return to normal. I'm going to leave you this evening here in final Shavasana to either drift off to sleep or to take your time transitioning up into the rest of your evening. On behalf of the South Lake YMCA, I would like to thank you so much for tuning into this restorative practice this evening. We are also thrilled to have the opportunity and the technology to be able to stay connected, even though we are apart during this very challenging time. I would love for all of you to visit our CRYMCA page and view all of the virtual classes that we have offered to you. And please feel free to reach out if you have suggestions or comments or questions, or if there's anything at all that we can do for you in order to stay connected to you, our members. You are what makes the YMCA so great. With that, with my hands at my heart center, the word namaste means the light in me acknowledges the light in you. Knowing full well that I'm not always at my very best, knowing full well that you may not always be at yours, but during this time and space, knowing that the best of me acknowledges the best of you. And I look forward to sharing space with all of you again very soon. Namaste. Have a great evening, everybody. From the South Lake YMCA, have a good night.